This is Kathy from Gadgets Top 321, and in today's video I'm going to be comparing 4 gray inks, and I've got 4 pens that I've replaced the nibs with identical Pen BBS medium nibs so that I can compare these fairly. Now the 4 inks I'm going to be looking at are Robert Oster's Summer Storm, Diamine Earl Grey. I have a full bottle of this, but I got a one of those random ink sample sets from Goulet, and so instead of having to dip my nib in a whole bottle of ink, I'll just dip it in the sample there. And this is my Graf Faber-Castell Stone Gray. I had 4 ink cartridges in here, and I'd had them for a while, so I just emptied them into this sample vial. 4 ink cartridges ended up making about a 3 ml sample of ink. And finally, I've got Monteverde Moonstone, and I think when I ordered this, I intended to get the Pelican Moonstone, but we'll see if I regret my mistake. Monteverde inks, I think they're the ones that advertise the ink additive that helps ink flow, so maybe that was a good mistake. We'll see. I am going to start with the Robert Oster Summer Storm. And instead of, let's see, using my knife to put down a blob of ink, that didn't work out so great last time. I better put my glasses on. I'm just going to do a little scribble. This is a pretty pale gray, and it leans, right now it's looking kind of blue on this paper, but I found that it leans kind of lavender. This is one of those inks that I call a watery ink. See how it nearly wipes entirely away. And if you write very fast, you see it tends to drag the dye. I don't know. It's difficult to explain. It's just, you see a lot of shading. And so depending on your writing style, cursive or printing, your shading may show up more or less. I don't know. To me, writing, usually with these watery inks, the ink going down on the paper, to me, is just not very satisfying. I don't know. It's difficult to explain. Let's see, the next one is, which one is this? This is the Diamine Earl Grey. I've used this one quite a bit for journaling. This one's more saturated. But it's more saturated than the Summer Storm, but I wouldn't really call it a saturated ink. In the past, I've called this one a watery ink. And you can kind of see it on that loop where I wrote quickly. It got, the color is more pale. Okay, so that was Diamine Earl Grey. Next, I've got the Graf Faber-Castell Stone Grey. And I can see a little, yeah, I think you'll be able to see it too. There's a little brown tint to this one. This feels like it has more lubrication in it than the Diamine Earl Grey. All right. And the last one is the Monteverde Moonstone. And this looks like the most saturated out of the bunch, and it has a definite brown tint to it. All right. Now, one thing I will say with these gray inks, you feel more of the feedback on the page with them than you do with like a black. Black inks, with them being so deep and saturated, tend to be some of the most smooth writers, but I find that with these gray inks, you really feel any imperfection in your nib. And so these were replacement nibs that I had bought, separately from any pen. And so this time when I used them, after I inked each one up, I went over the micro mesh just to make sure that the nib was as smooth as possible. I did a writing sample before I did the micro mesh, and yeah, I could feel they just weren't pleasant to write with. And so I went over the micro mesh, and now it's a little bit better, but you tend to be able to feel the nib dragging on the paper. And the best I can describe it is when you're writing with your pen and you can feel when you're about to run out of ink, you start being able to feel more resistance. That's what it feels like writing with these inks. It feels like your pen is about to run dry. And that's just comparing it to other more inks that have a little more, I guess, lubrication to them, or are more viscous. So, but that being said, the writing experience is not the most pleasant, but the read back, I really like gray inks. I like journaling with gray inks because the page, I think, just looks so much better than like a stark black ink. I like using gray inks instead of black inks. And you can see these each have just a slightly different tone to them. I'm kind of surprised. The Earl Grey looks the most true gray to me. I've always thought, I don't know, when I use it by itself, it doesn't look as much like a true gray. Now I will say I'm kind of glad I got the Monteverde Moonstone. I like that. That's kind of unique. Just looking at the Pelican Moonstone, it looks like just a gray. It doesn't look like it, at least from the pictures, that it leans blue or it leans brown or green. It just looks like a gray. So I kind of like this Monteverde Moonstone. It looks interesting. Well, if you found this video helpful, please give me a thumbs up, and if you'd like to see more videos like this, please subscribe to my channel.